Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling drained, confused, or oddly diminished? Do certain people make you question your worth, even when they smile in your face? What if the issue isn't your sensitivity, but their subtle hostility? Let's face it, hate doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the form of fake concern, cold silences, and smiles that don't reach the eyes. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden signs someone may deeply resent you, and how to respond with calm, clarity, and self-respect through the lens of timeless Stoic wisdom. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel if you're committed to becoming mentally stronger and emotionally wiser every single day. 1. The quiet sting of disrespect. They talk over you. They roll their eyes when you speak. They conveniently forget to include you again. These moments may seem small, almost insignificant when viewed in isolation, but they accumulate. Each slight, each eye roll, each instance of being ignored is a drop in a cup that gradually overflows. This is the quiet sting of disrespect. It isn't loud or obvious. It doesn't shout in your face. Instead, it whispers, subtly undermining your presence and sense of worth. It's easy to dismiss these moments. Perhaps you've told yourself, maybe I'm being too sensitive, or they didn't mean it that way. But Stoicism urges us to see things as they are, not how we wish them to be. These aren't harmless slips. They are signs that point to a deeper issue. Your value is not being recognized or honored. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength lies in how you choose to respond to these slights. The Stoic does not lash out. The Stoic does not beg for inclusion or demand validation. The Stoic observes. Observation is powerful. It creates distance between the wound and the reaction. When someone talks over you, instead of immediately snapping back or retreating into silence, pause. Watch. Listen. That interruption says more about their character than your worth. When your presence is dismissed or your achievements ignored, don't let insecurity guide your next step. Let clarity do it instead. Disrespect thrives in reaction. It wants you to feel lesser. It feeds on your frustration and confusion. But when you remain calm, when you neither escalate nor shrink, you remove the fuel from their fire. In some cases, withdrawal is not cowardice. It's wisdom. You are not required to explain your worth to those who make a sport of denying it. You are not obligated to stay in rooms where you are consistently made to feel invisible. There is a quiet power in stepping back, in choosing distance over desperation. Remember, real respect does not need reminders. It flows naturally where value is recognized. You should not have to campaign for basic dignity. If your presence must be defended every time, that space is not for you. The world is full of people who will understand your worth without needing a PowerPoint presentation. Seek them. Surround yourself with individuals who listen when you speak, not out of politeness, but out of genuine interest. Who remember your name, your wins, and your pain, not out of obligation, but out of care. And when you find yourself surrounded by the opposite, those who diminish, dismiss, or disregard you, respond not with rage, but with reality. The Stoic way is not to pretend these things don't hurt. It is to recognize the hurt, trace its root, and choose your response carefully. Not every battle needs to be fought. Some need to be walked away from. 2. Manipulation in disguise. They say they care. They say they're only looking out for you. They say they're worried, but listen closely. Their words carry weight, not of love, but of control. "I just don't want you to get hurt," they whisper, right after they've made you question your decision. "Are you sure that's the best idea?" they ask, moments after you've shared your plans. This isn't support. This is a leash disguised as concern. Manipulation wears many faces. Sometimes it comes dressed in affection. Sometimes it wears the mask of mentorship. But its true goal is always the same: control. It thrives on imbalance, where one person doubts themselves just enough to hand over their choices to another. Seneca cautioned against this when he said, "He who is too busy looking outward forgets his inner strength." Manipulators count on that. They rely on your momentary self-doubt, on your longing for guidance, on your fear of failure. They step in not to empower you, but to become the voice you listen to when your own feels too quiet. The Stoic path is one of inner clarity, of being guided not by noise from the outside, but by principles held within. If someone's help leaves you feeling small, confused, or dependent, that isn't help. That's harm. Ask yourself, does their advice uplift you or make you question your instincts? Do you feel stronger after speaking with them, or just more reliant? The Stoic doesn't reject advice outright, but they do examine the source. They ask, what is this person's intent? Are they helping me grow or shaping me into something easier for them to manage? The hardest part about recognizing manipulation is that it doesn't look like manipulation until you step back, until you recall how often you've adjusted. Your choice is to keep the peace, to please them, to avoid the passive-aggressive disappointment they never say aloud but always radiate. Reclaim your judgment. Trust your mind. The Stoic way is not arrogance but autonomy. It means trusting that your decisions, even when flawed, are yours to make, and that learning from a mistake is more powerful than never choosing at all. Let go of needing their approval. Approval that is conditional, fragile, and disappearing the moment you show strength is not love, it's control. 3. Neglect, silence, and the truth. They hide. You achieved something great. Silence. You struggled through something hard. Still silence. They're never there, not when it counts. We often believe that neglect is a passive act, an absence of intention. But that's not always true. Sometimes silence is strategy. It's how some people punish without speaking, control without confronting. When they disappear at your high points, it's not always forgetfulness. It's discomfort with your success. When they vanish at your low points, it may not be coincidence. It may be unwillingness to support when it's inconvenient. This is emotional neglect, and it's often harder to face than direct conflict because it's invisible. There's no argument, no betrayal you can point to, just a growing absence. Just a hollow where connection should be. Stoic philosophy teaches that actions reveal more truth than words. Marcus Aurelius didn't concern himself with flattery. He looked for character in consistency. People may speak love, but it's in their presence or absence where truth lives. Think about who shows up, not just when you're down, but when you rise. Who claps when you win, who disappears when you shine. That silence you feel in your proudest moments isn't a mistake. It's a message. Jealousy often hides behind muted reactions. Envy wears the mask of indifference. You deserve more than the bare minimum, more than vague support from afar. True. Connection is not about constant contact. It's about reliable presence when it counts. When people fail to be there for you repeatedly, they are choosing. And in that choice, they show you where you stand. The Stoic response is not bitterness, it's clarity. It's the ability to say, this is who they are, without adding the weight of resentment. You cannot force others to show up for you, but you can stop expecting celebration from those committed to staying silent. Surround yourself with people who see your light and don't fear it, who show up, not just in pain, but in progress. And remember, you are allowed to outgrow those who only loved you when you were struggling. Their silence is not your failure, it's their truth, and your wisdom is in recognizing it. 4. Passive attacks and emotional withdrawal. Personal growth often evokes unexpected reactions from those around us. It would be nice to believe that everyone in your life will cheer you on, but reality tends to be more complicated. When you begin evolving, whether through self-improvement, setting new boundaries, or simply choosing a different path, it can threaten the delicate balance others have come to rely on. The quiet resistance to your growth doesn't always show up as open criticism. In fact, it often arrives cloaked in passive aggression and emotional withdrawal. You may notice someone pulling away, becoming distant, offering fewer words, fewer check-ins. Or you might hear phrases like, "You've changed," or "Don't forget where you came from." On the surface, these statements might appear neutral, even concerned, but pay close attention to the tone, the context, and what's not being said. More often than not, these comments aren't about you forgetting your roots. They're about others being uncomfortable with the fact that you're outgrowing the version of you they were comfortable with. At the core of this reaction is fear. Your growth holds up a mirror to their stagnation. When someone sees you getting better, taking risks, becoming more disciplined or fulfilled, it may remind them of the places where they've remained still. For many, that's a painful reflection. Rather than confront their discomfort or take it as a motivation to grow, they may try to dim your light, subtly, passively, but persistently. This behavior often flies under the radar. There's no dramatic confrontation, no blow-up, just space, silence, a look of disapproval, an inside joke that lands like a jab. And because it's so understated, you might second-guess yourself. Am I imagining this? Maybe I am acting different. That self-doubt creeps in. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the passive resistance is designed to destabilize you emotionally without overt conflict. But the Stoics prepared us for this. Epictetus, the former slave turned philosopher, taught, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, accept that others may misunderstand or even resent your evolution. Improvement isn't always graceful or well received. Sometimes, growing will make you look arrogant or aloof to those who haven't yet stepped onto their own path of development. That's not your burden to carry. Let their discomfort be theirs. Don't shrink yourself to fit their emotional comfort zones. Their sarcasm, their retreat, their emotional withholding. It says more about their fear than it does about your worth. You were not born to remain in place for the convenience of others. Your journey is your own, and the cost of progress may include the loss of approval from those unwilling to walk beside you. It's not easy. Emotional withdrawal can feel like abandonment. Passive attacks can leave emotional bruises you can't explain. But with awareness comes power. When you recognize these subtle behaviors for what they are, an expression of their insecurity, you can respond with clarity instead of confusion. You don't need to retaliate or beg for closeness. Let go of the need to explain yourself. Let go of the desire to be understood by everyone. Growth will sometimes be lonely, but loneliness is not the same as wrongness. In fact, some of your deepest expansions will require solitude. Let that be your strength, not your shame. Keep growing. Keep showing up for your journey, even if others fall away. Their silence is not your failure, it's their fear. And your consistency in the face of that silence, that's the real power. That's Stoic strength. 5. Exclusion and the slow burn of rejection. There's a particular kind of pain that doesn't come with slammed doors or shouted words. Instead, it's the kind that arrives quietly, without explanation. You start noticing patterns. You weren't invited to the gathering. No one thought to check in after your big moment. A group photo appears on your feed, one where your absence isn't accidental. Exclusion, especially from people you thought of as your inner circle, can feel like death by 1,000 cuts. It's not always personal, but it always feels that way. You try to rationalize it. Maybe they forgot. Maybe it was last minute. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But deep down, a sense begins to settle in your chest, a heaviness that whispers, you don't belong here anymore. The Stoics teach us not to base our worth on the judgments or actions of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Not once did he say, "Only if others invite you to brunch." Yet we're social creatures. To be left out, especially, repeatedly, touches the primal part of us that equates inclusion with survival. Exclusion then doesn't just sting, it destabilizes. It makes you question your value. And over time, it becomes corrosive. A slow, quiet poison that begins to eat away at your self-worth. But here's the truth. Not being included doesn't always mean you're not valuable. Sometimes it means your presence challenges the dynamic others are trying to maintain. Maybe your growth, your new boundaries, your success, whatever it is, doesn't fit into the version of the group they're trying to preserve. It hurts, but it's not the final word. The Stoic doesn't chase closed doors. They observe them, acknowledge them, and then build new ones. There's deep power in turning away from a table that no longer has a seat for you and building one where you are not merely tolerated but genuinely valued. It's easy to internalize exclusion, to think, what's wrong with me? But a better question is, what kind of spaces am I seeking? What kind of people do I want around me? If a group repeatedly shows you that you are an afterthought, that is not a place for your energy. And you don't need a dramatic exit or emotional confrontation. Sometimes, the most powerful response is silence paired with redirection, away from them and toward yourself. When you invest in your own path, when you create your own space, you begin to attract those who resonate with your energy. Not because you begged for their time, but because you lived in alignment with your truth. And that kind of authenticity always draws the right people in. So if you've been left out, excluded, or overlooked, feel the pain. Don't numb it. Don't pretend it doesn't hurt. But then move forward. With clarity, with purpose, with stoic calm. You are not here to beg for space. You are here to create it. Build tables where others feel seen, welcomed, and appreciated. And most importantly, reserve a seat for yourself at the head of that table. Let exclusion be the redirection it was always meant to be. A path not to despair, but to deeper self-understanding and alignment. Because in the end, you don't need to belong everywhere. You only need to belong to yourself. Choose peace over pleasing. If someone consistently disrespects, manipulates, neglects, or excludes you, it's not your job to change them. It's your responsibility to protect your peace. Set boundaries. Don't explain them, enforce them. As Stoicism teaches us, freedom begins where dependence ends. Let go of needing approval from people who quietly resent you. Instead, focus on building connections rooted in truth, support, and mutual respect. Your peace is your power. Guard it well. If this message resonated with you, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and join the journey of mastering yourself and your life, one mindful step at a time.